There are more gory movies, for sure. For sure. But I would be remiss to not have The Shining as one of my picks.
But remember when you're voting.
And it's not family friendly.
Remember when you're voting to take into account the category.
No, you need to. I think it's really important to pick the best candidate.
I think it needs to fit within the confines of the category.
Okay. This could be a political discussion. Welcome back to the break room. It's the start of October. It's close enough to the start of October, which means it's the start of scary season, okay? And you might be wondering, what are our favorite horror movies? And maybe even more specifically, what are canonically the break room's approved horror movies? I'm Zach Huddleston, and joining me today to get to the 6 scary movies you must watch before you die today is John Costa. Evil. That's right.
Is that scary?
And
Very
the cursed Gina Ippolito.
I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a really kind of shitty show.
You got to say at least one thing.
I'll say so many things. I'm going to throw so many tantrums.
Today we're doing a fun version of our assembled format that we're calling Breakroom Recommends, okay? But we're not sold on that name, so throw in the chat if you have a better recommendation, okay? If you have a recommendation for our recommends format, we're going to each list our pick for a given subcategory of horror movie. We're listed there, and we'll kind of go over them in a second. And then we're going to debate back and forth, and you, if you're watching live, can participate via poll to pick one movie for each category that kind of becomes the official Breakroom recommendation. If you were to sit down, maybe starting October 29th, and you're like, the next couple nights, we're going to pound through a bunch of great horror movies, right? You would have your 5-movie slate that you could get through in a long weekend or something like that. And so we're going to try to do that today.
I do want to make a point of clarification. We are picking movies from categories. There are great horror movies that we will not mention in this episode.
Because they don't fit into
the categories. You're not going to see Psycho. You're not going to see Alien. There's a couple movies like that you're not going to see. And they're great. And they're great movies, and we love them to death. But they're not...
and I think like part of the goal of this is that we want a nice broad spectrum of recommendations, right? Yeah. We want like a broad spectrum of recommendations, right? If you were going to sit down over a long weekend and watch a whole bunch of horror, you wouldn't want nothing but slashers, nothing but like Giallo, nothing but like Supernatural or whatever, right? You would want like to mix and match. You know, your 4 p.m. Sunday movie should have a different vibe than your 11 p.m. Friday movie.
It's true. That's true. Your 4 p.m. has to have the most hardcore nudity in it. Everyone knows that's the perfect time for nudity horror.
That's right. In fact, my religion won't let me see anything naked unless it's between the hours of 4 and 5.
Oh, that's so restrictive.
It is.
Props to this genre.
After this show, I got a lot of work to do.
Props to this genre in general for being pretty lurid. There's a lot of nudity in horror movies in general, more so than other genres, including the main genres we talk about here on the break room. It is a sexier genre ually.
Yeah, so should we start with our first category?
That's right.
Family friendly?
Real quick,
Sexiest of all categories.
the categories we're going to cover, okay?
Yes,
and even within these subcategories, there's maybe some definitional wiggle room. Sure. Some movies might be applicable in different categories. You might dispute our picks, whatever. That's fun engagement bait type of way, assholes. Our first category is family friendly. Okay, this is something you could watch with your 9-year-old nephew, right? This is something maybe you enjoyed as a 9-year-old and weren't given traumatizing nightmares for the rest of your life.
I watched Terrifier with my 9-year-old nephew,
Whoa. Is this our most constricted category?
Yeah, probably.
Maybe.
Not a ton of horror movies.
Well, we're gonna get into that because I think
we've got some good picks,
it nudges into other categories.
Yeah.
But second, and this is maybe the most straightforward, Gorefest.
Yeah.
I think this is something.
Al Gore.
Yeah.
Okay, it's an election year.
It's climate change based horror. Gorefest, right?
Sustainably sourced.
I did specify not Al on the board.
Oh,
not
look at that. Same wavelength.
Wow.
But yeah, something gory, visceral, your slashers, your body horror, practical effects.
Lots of blood.
All that kind of stuff. It's maybe the most straightforward horror genre. Then this third category, obscure or indie.
We had a lot of conversations about this one.
Yes, because it's kind of an interesting category because actually a lot of horror movies are technically indie.
Right.
They often come from smaller studios that aren't the big studios or even sub-studios within the big studios, or they're independently financed. Some of the most famous horror movies of all time were indies.
All those 80s horror movies were all indies. Yes. Anything A24, that's indie. So indie, not necessarily obscure. So this is like you could go obscure or indie, sort of.
Yeah, but hopefully we get some deeper cuts here that maybe you're less familiar with. And speaking of deeper cuts, foreign, okay? America's not the only country pumping out good horror, and we're going to have, in this category, has to be made probably outside of U.S. and Canada. I mean, otherwise, David Cronenberg would be...
It is an interesting question. The Academy has struggled with this in recent years. Is it foreign language film?
Oh.
Or could it be British or Australian?
Yeah,
like if it's British,
there's a lot
it's
of,
not...
like, co-productions,
You
too,
wouldn't
like
say
US
An American
and
Werewolf
Australia.
in London is a foreign film,
Well,
right?
and that was an American director, largely American cast. But yeah,
and
so
he was
American
he was in London.
We'll see. I think most of our picks are foreign language.
Yeah.
We did. We'll we did a good job. Look at us.
Yeah. Then the next category, again, this is very subject to debate. Camp. And that doesn't just mean the film Sleepaway Camp and its sequels or Friday the 13th. Movies that are campy, right? Maybe this could border on like unintentional comedy, maybe things that are so ridiculously operatically over the top.
Yeah, tongue-in-cheek, a little tongue-in-cheek.
Maybe
I think a lot of horror falls into this. I think a lot of 80s horror
Especially
falls into
80s
this.
horror or even independent horror.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yes. And then our final category, we're just saying modern. So it has to be something, this was originally last 10 years, then we realized that the early 2000s had a lot of bangers. So we're going to say the last 15 years, something that feels current, modern, of recent vintage.
Yeah, that even the Gen Zers might have seen.
Yes.
Yeah, this is one that Jessica wanted to include in. She couldn't be here today, but she wanted us to make sure we got a modern fit in. So excited to hear what you guys all picked.
And that could be like a place we squeeze in extras from the other categories as well, because that could be a modern foreign horror movie or modern Gorefest or whatever. Okay. Those are our categories. Let's go ahead and begin.
Yay!
We'll start off with our early afternoon viewing, maybe. Our family friendly.
Yeah.
Started off in the PG-13 zone. Gina, what's your pick?
Yeah, I would love to go first here. I'm going with one of my all-time favorite movies, Coraline. I'm gonna sell John out because he has not seen it.
Well, I was gonna pretend this whole time that I hadn't seen the movie.
I'm selling him out immediately. But this is like, God, it's got everything you want. If you haven't seen it, a little girl and her parents moved into this house, and through a little doorway, she has an other mother, voiced fantastically by Terry Hatcher. And this woman has buttons on her eyes, and she steals little kids' souls away.
It's the Neil Gaiman book.
Okay.
Yeah, I also read the book. Also highly recommend it. It's pretty terrifying for a family friendly.
Interesting. Okay, John, what's your pick for family friendly?
So the companion to Coraline, coming out of the same studio, also stop motion animated. This was one of my favorite kind of like this is maybe my favorite Halloween movie, not necessarily my favorite horror movie, is Paranorman, which is about a young kid named Norman who can both see and speak to ghosts. Beautifully animated. The story is really heartbreaking. It's fantastic, and you can see at the apex of that poster there that like seemingly romantic relationship. Not in the movie, because if you're into this kind of thing, this was the first, I think, animated movie, maybe animated children's movie that featured a gay relationship. That jock-looking character is into men.
Yeah, but to Laika Studios. Right off the bat, because they're doing it right.
Which is so interesting because they've only made maybe like 5 or 6 movies.
And
so
they're all
have a
bangers.
third of your movies be sort of horror movies.
Yeah, they're all bangers.
One was Frankenweenie is not like that.
No,
but it is in that same vein. Yeah. It feels like it. And same with like Nightmare Before Christmas also. They feel like they're in the same universe.
And speaking of both of those films, kind of tangential to that, the Tim Burton universe, my pick is going to be the OG Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I mean,
is this our hardest category to choose?
It might be. I think Paranorman is, while it's sort of my favorite, it's probably like this is the least viewed. Yeah. So it's maybe going to be out first. It's going to be tough to decide between I think Coraline and
I think
more
Beetlejuice. People have probably seen Beetlejuice, and it's a real banger. This is a really hard one.
And Beetlejuice for me, like Tim Burton is, especially good Tim Burton, is like the apex of family-friendly horror. Sure. He finds a way in kind of his best work of squeezing horror into non-horror. Even like Pee-wee's Big Adventure has some very scary moments.
That bus scene there,
Yes, that Large Marge. Absolutely. Or the clown nightmare sequence, right?
Yeah.
Like, he finds a nice way to generate like kind of cartoonish, evil, scary moments, and certainly the Beetlejuice film, while wacky and mostly a comedy, has some kind of slightly scarier moments, or certainly like those kind of themes and undertones.
Also, great effects when they do when they like stretch out their face and try to make terrifying faces. That is a great practical effect that they do.
And always, especially in his 80s and 90s run, like the set design,
the music,
gothic,
the music horror. Also is
I could have thrown in Edward Scissorhands, would have been at home here.
Yeah.
Addams Family, not a Tim Burton movie. That was Barry Sonnenfeld, but kind of feels of a spirit with those movies. Came out around the same time.
Campy, I would say.
Yes.
It is
both
campy.
Could be in the camp category.
Before we hit the poll, do you guys want to talk about any honorable mentions that you thought of?
Oh man, I feel like this is the hardest one because it's like.
My couple of honorable mentions, like I'm not even sure are family friendly. I mean, the first one is Poltergeist, which I think is probably family friendly.
That's so scary.
It is scary. It's probably the scariest of the movies that we've mentioned.
Just
but like
little kids in it does not make it family friendly.
It is very scary, but it was kind of like Ghost, directed by Spielberg, and like feels like. Oh, you could kind of blink and think of this as in the same world as the Goonies. And
I'm thinking like Ghostbusters is sort of we watched these movies when we were young. Maybe we were too young to watch them. The other movie I have on here is Zombieland, which is maybe like pushing into preteen and not maybe like for the whole family. But that movie is mostly comedy.
I'll give a shout out to a genuinely family friendly one.
Feels like
and also recently, absolutely shots fired. Also a recent one. Muppets Haunted Mansion. If you have not seen it, Disney Plus.
Who's watching Muppet stuff in 2024?
Oh, it's so good.
I just said that to piss off Gina.
It's packed full of cameos, packed full of songs. Everyone famous is in there. Oh, it's so good. It's genuinely funny. If you like Muppets at all, this is a must watch.
That's great. Evan, are there other suggestions for family-friendly horror in the chat?
Yeah, I mean, GSU Eagle and a few other people saying like the definition feels like Nightmare Before Christmas, right? It does feel like that. I mean,
the age-old question of like, is that a Christmas movie or is that?
I know, right?
I don't know.
I think it's a Halloween. You can watch it at both holidays, but I think it's more Halloweeny.
And also, there is a distinction, right, between Halloweeny and something that is like a horror movie, right?
Absolutely.
And there's a distinction between Frankenweenie. So the chat decided with Coraline was leading for a long
recency bias. Maybe got Beetlejuice because people maybe rewatched it before.
But Beetlejuice ended up
you know what? I'm not mad about this one. I'm not mad about this one.
No, it's a great movie.
It's an iconic. I also think knowing where some of our picks are going after this, it's nice to have a big, successful studio franchise represented on our board.
Yeah, we love the big studios and all that they stand for. It's great to have them.
I'm saying a lot of the later categories.
That is true. I do think I think the most people have seen Beetlejuice out of the three of those. But also go watch those other two because they're
really great. Yeah.
This might end up turning into a little bit of a popularity contest, and that's okay.
I think Paranorman is like high on my rewatch list because I remember really enjoying it, and I haven't seen either of those movies, or I've seen those other two movies more recently.
It is very funny.
I'm due for a rewatch on both Coraline and Paranorman.
Yeah. Big shout out to Coraline though. Riley also in studio today. Riley and I love that movie.
Yeah, and they like re-air it in LA theaters like almost every October, so you could go see it in person.
Okay. Ooh. All right, let's take a hard right turn, a U-turn, if you will, if you're a fan of that horror franchise, and go to our Gorefest category. Okay, this is hard horror with a capital H. Okay, these are, nobody would confuse these for being family friendly unless you're Gina with her nieces and nephews.
I think this is my favorite category.
Yes.
I think
it's my favorite.
This is the category where, right, like all of your classic movies are probably fitting into the categories that we have.
I think this will be another close one, actually.
Oh, I think mine's gonna sweep. But go ahead, Gina.
Wow.
Go ahead.
No, you go first. I went first last time.
Okay, well, my pick is The Shining, which is maybe the best horror movie of all time.
Fighting words.
Lots of people have been adding me saying The Shining.
Right?
I mean, it's good.
Gorefest is tricky. There's a lot of blood spilling out of an elevator.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. When I saw this, I don't know if I would consider it Gorefest.
Hard to... But I was sitting here with these lists, and I was like, well, where does The Exorcist fit in? Where does Alien fit in? Where does The Shining fit in? And this felt like the category where those movies fit in the most, and I just kind of rattled off some of my honorable mentions there. But this movie is really the one that I want to come back to every time I want to watch like a shake you to the bones horror movie.
Yeah, I think it's more like genuinely terrifying than Gorefest.
Yes.
I think
there's a lot of suspenseful moments in there.
Just having the blood get off on floor 2 is not.
I mean, Scatman Crothers takes an axe to the torso.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true, but it's not. They're not like chopping up. You're not seeing bits flying.
There are more gory movies for sure, for sure. But I would be remiss to not have The Shining as one of my picks.
But remember when you're voting,
and it's not family friendly.
Remember when you're voting to take into account the
No,
category.
you need to. I think it's really important to pick the best candidate.
I think it needs to fit within the confines of the category.
Okay. This could be a political
Would you
discussion.
consider The Shining a blockbuster?
A blockbuster.
That's a good,
Because I realize that we don't have a blockbuster, category. We're talking about the studios. They're kind of the little guys here. And maybe they need a little bit more representation on the board. I don't know.
That's so hard
keep
because
it in mind.
back then there wasn't the concept of blockbuster was you did have your Jaws and they now we can look back on it and be like that's a blockbuster, but at the time people weren't like what's gonna be this summer's blockbuster.
Also, Stanley Kubrick wasn't exactly putting out Batman movies.
Stanley
or whatever.
Kubrick does need to put out more.
He does.
That guy's been asleep
Lolita
at the wheel.
wasn't enough.
That guy's been asleep at the wheel for quite a while. Get back to work, Stanley.
Come on, Stanley.
Hey, come on the show, Stanley.
Come on the show.
Also, it should be noted, Stephen King.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice to have a little Stephen King on the big board.
Although famously
Did not like it.
Adaptation that he absolutely hates.
But I don't care. It's a really great movie.
Right,
and it's not important if the adaptation is, to me, if it's faithful or not.
No,
when you
I
get
agree.
a great book and a great movie, and they can be separate, right?
I agree. I just think it's funny that we're putting our Stephen King representation he himself would not vote for.
You're right. Ooh. I said I was going to watch Misery the other night, and I didn't get around to it.
That's a good one,
I'm
too.
sure that one...
That's a good one,
That's
too.
on Criterion right
Is
now.
that a Gorefest? I don't know.
Okay.
Not really.
Gina, what's your Gorefest?
Okay, and now stick with me here because this one was not released in theaters, but I think I can sway you to. There's a little film called Trick or Treat, starring a really grumpy, angry, pissed off Brian Cox fighting this little pumpkin boy.
He's so good.
It's like the Halloween version of Love Actually, but it's all these vignettes that are then tied together beautifully at the end. All-star cast: Anna Paquin, Brian Cox, Timo Pennicott. There's every person in this is.
Sorry, who was the third name you said?
Timo Pennicott.
All-star cast?
Also,
Galactica.
Grob Jibberbob is in this.
Clearly,
Gangrog, Boo
We got Spiff McKillicuddy.
Clearly, this panel is not filled with Battlestar Galactica, a recent Battlestar Galactica.
So wait, this
Such
is
a glove shit.
what's that called? And this is popular in the horror genre, not a
And
compendium.
it's not quite an anthology.
Anthology?
Yeah,
or-
it's sort of like an anthology where you think they're going to be disconnected vignettes, but they're all tied together, and little pumpkin boy is sort of the through line.
I mean, like Gina said, the perfect one-to-one is it's the Love Actually of horror.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I have not seen this film.
Oh, it is.
I'm excited to watch.
I really love it. I watch it every year. Also, I think fits into Gorefest. Like you've absolutely got like kids being hacked up with axes, and little pumpkin boy has a little sharp lollipop that he uses as a weapon.
I do like this comment from Damn It Randy in the chat saying so many shots from that movie could be wall art. What do you guys, is that?
Ooh.
Wait, is this about The Shining or is this about Trick or Treat?
Okay.
Trick or Treat.
We gotta get this guy some help.
Oh no!
Okay.
I love that.
Any horror movie where you're like, let's frame that. It's like, I'm a little concerned.
Are we sure he's not talking about The Shining?
I'm not sure. Hey, Damn It Randy, call it.
No, damn it, Randy. If you're talking about Trick or Treat, I approve. I agree.
He's like, when those little messed up kids that have been underwater for 55 years come out of the gulch.
No, but listen.
Put that on my wall. I got it on my phone screen background.
I just don't know how you beat Brian Cox like trying to beat up a 2-foot-tall pumpkin boy.
That was genuinely scary.
I just think about him going, ba 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 ba.
Yeah, he's having some French fries.
Hey.
No, truly. So I just watched this movie for the first time 2 nights ago, and I did not recognize Brian Cox until he starts yelling at his neighbor about something, and I was like, "Oh, there's the voice from Succession, where he's just yelling."
He's
at
like,
people.
"Hey, neighbor, fuck you!"
This pumpkin boy is not a serious person.
Right.
Okay,
Zach,
great
your pick.
And then my pick, I'm going to lean a lot of my picks from here on out are leaning a little older. I'm a fan of older movies, and like kind of one of the godfathers of gore. George A. Romero, I feel like he also deserves a little representation on the board. Now, I actually don't stand as hard for Night of the Living Dead, his original, the black and white, and just the age. Just doesn't do it for me as quite as well as his later stuff. And for me, Dawn of the Dead, not the Zack Snyder remake, the OG Dawn of the Dead, okay? One of the greatest movie posters of all time.
Yeah, it is great.
And
buy our shirt with the dragon.
I know, we ripped it off for
Didn't do very well.
Design. But this movie, it's a zombie movie. It's also kind of has like a little Die Hard element because most of the movie they're trapped inside of a shopping mall. Like all good zombie movies, your ultimate enemies are the other non-zombies, right? And everybody's selling each other out, but like. This was still early enough in the history of zombie movies that hadn't been told 1,000 times. A lot of I also appreciate in almost all of his movies, you will not recognize any of the actors.
Yeah.
None of them went on to do anything else or had done anything up until that point.
Because they all died in that movie.
That's right. That they were so committed to their craft.
And am I mistaken in my like zombie lore? Wasn't Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead the first like fast zombies thing?
I think they did establish a lot of zombies.
It was
as
Romero zombies are still pretty
they were still slow.
There's a great
great social commentary.
There's a lot of great commentary about like capitalism and consumerism.
Yeah.
Because like you have all these zombies like slow walking through a mall, looking very similar to the shoppers. In a mall.
Sort of the Jacques Tati of horror.
Yes, a lot of great practical effects. Of course, people getting their faces eaten off, and with the weird little latex and the grape jelly and all that kind of stuff.
I feel like both of yours are like classic picks that deserve their shot on a top 10 list.
Yeah, and yours went straight
Mine
to DVD.
is like if you watch it, you are gonna have a great time.
Ooh.
It scared me legitimately, and I took a break.
Wow. Unfortunately, again, I didn't have time to watch Trick or Treat before this taping, so I can't in full faith vote for it. I will say The Shining is one of my favorite movies of all time. I could rewatch that movie every Halloween.
Yeah.
It still does it for me.
Again,
it might be a stretch in this category, but you're right. I don't know what other category we'd put it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which, do you guys want to go over some honorable mentions for this category before we lock it in?
It goes deep in this, right?
There are a lot.
The original Halloween, really, and all Halloweens that come after.
Yeah.
You already mentioned Alien.
I mentioned Alien, The Exorcist, which isn't really gory,
Yeah,
but
I
like
think you don't
the
understand this
prosthetic,
category, John.
the prosthetic is gore only blood?
No,
like the
it's
Linda
like
Blair prosthetic is disgusting.
If I'm chopping you and there's bits flying, like that's also, or like if a body part gets hacked off and it's
I just need to know, Gina, from you where you would put these movies.
I'm just saying,
Speaking of which,
that's not what this is about. This isn't about. This doesn't say like, hey, what are the best horror? It's within the confines of the system.
I said that at the beginning of this episode.
We have to have order here, people.
Okay, that's my laptop. I also said Jaws, of course. That is a gory movie and is not like that scary. Maybe is that family friendly?
Scary sequences,
right?
Yeah.
incredible. Texas Chainsaw Massacre also.
Yeah,
one of the classics of the genre.
Those are my own.
Yeah, I would say like there's a couple David Cronenberg movies you could slip in there.
Oh,
The Fly.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're into Videodrome, The Brood, Scanners.
I almost like picked The Brood for my obscure /E&D, but
yeah, I rewatch all the like the Halloweens, the Nightmare on Elm Streets, the Friday the 13th every year, and those are classic gore fests.
Yes.
The Moonrise Andrew saying my gore pick Ready or Not. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Sure, yeah.
The recent Samara Weaving joint.
And then Short Sackham asking, would you consider The Birds as gore?
That's a good question. I mean,
we have to consult Gina because she has the most.
Listen,
opinions.
I don't think it's gore. I think like the most you see is birds pecking at skin, and I think at the time people would be like, "Oh God, this is gross." I think maybe at the time it would have been considered gore.
That was a great clutching your pearls face, by the way, Gina. That just made. Was it worse. It was worse that time. No, but you're right. Like Psycho is a great horror movie, but you just have one sequence, the shower, and that's like black and white and the blood.
And that they had to do a lot to get around the censors too.
You can make
just the close up of the knife.
Pretty good argument that pre-1980s they just weren't showing real gore.
Yeah,
before that video nasties era began.
Yeah,
right?
that was the restrictions were stricter back then.
Yeah.
So the chat results are in with a tie.
Oh my god!
Between Trick or Treat and The Shining.
What?
Crazy.
Holy
wow,
cow.
I love this. I love you,
Wild.
chat. I love you. This means that all of you have seen Trick or Treat and appreciate it for what it is.
Unfortunately, that means that Zach and I are going to be the tiebreakers and choose The Shining.
But I think, noted.
I don't think that's how this works.
Noted, and it needs to go at the top of my list. You know what?
It's fun.
No, now you need to do a runoff, right? In the chat for all those
and I think like The Shining's obviously a superior film, but I will agree, and I'll
I think they both get circled.
consent to Gina's argument.
It's gonna be fucking insane if we put Trick or Treat up
no,
there
it is
and not The Shining.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, but I do think maybe we should have put a psychological category, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Dread.
The Shining.
We should have done a lot of
vibes.
things. We could have done a classic.
I say circle them both.
Circle them both.
Let's come back.
We're learning how this works in the
We'll
fly.
consult the Supreme Court of
Here's what's gonna
horror
happen.
to break this tie.
Tonight, everyone go home, watch both movies back to back. I would say Trick or Treat first, Shining second,
But watch
and then
them.
make your determination.
Yeah, watch them within the confines of the rules.
Yes. Okay. Before we get to our next pick, we want to thank one of the sponsors of the show. This episode is sponsored by Helix Sleep. If watching scary movies is keeping you up late at night, boy, you need the best mattress possible. Get that good sleep. That good nightmare sleep. You know what I mean? I own a Helix mattress. A lot of people on staff do because we've been partnered with Helix for a long time here at the Breakroom and at New Rockstars. And I sleep great on a Helix mattress. You take their sleep quiz, and it helps you find your perfect mattress. I wanted a medium firm mattress. I'm a side sleeper. Okay, if you get a firm mattress, you're a side sleeper.
Reveal.
Maybe you get a bend up shoulder after a little while.
Yeah.
Too soft, maybe you get some back issues. So
People who
me,
skip the ads are not going to get that reveal, which is crazy.
Look, that personal detail
right.
that keeps them coming back. And so the mattress I got, I believe I have the Dusk Lux model, which also sounds like it could be a horror film.
Yeah, from Dusk to Lux.
That's right. And it's great. I sleep great. It's been a wonderful addition to my sleep routine. They offer over 20 unique mattresses, including the award-winning Luxe and Ultra Premium Elite collections. They got mattresses for big and tall sleepers. They got a kid's mattress, anything you need. They deliver right to your door. It comes in a box that's like the size of a mini fridge, and you're like, that doesn't look like a mattress. You pop that box open, you get a full-size mattress in there.
Should we all do that?
Yeah.
Ready?
It's actually like a slow process. It doesn't really like explode out of the box. But if you did time lapse, it would look like that. And you get a 100-night sleep trial. So if after a month you're like, this isn't right for me, you can return it, no questions asked. And it has a 10-year warranty. Pile that on top of their financing options, flexible payment plans, and a great night's sleep is never far away. So grab yourself, go to the URL on screen, helixsleep.com/breakroom. You get 20% off your order. What a great deal.
What a great deal.
If you got a junky mattress, if you're out there, maybe you got your hand-me-down joint or your whatever one you've had too long. Your back's killing you. You're waking up not that well rested. Helix Sleep.
Yeah.
Zach got me my Helix, and I'll never. I'll be indebted to him forever.
That's right. Every time he goes to bed.
You a side sleeper?
I go. I'm actually a chest sleeper. What are they?
Oh, tummy.
I'm a little tummy guy.
Interesting. Good for you. Also, check out nerdriot.shop. Both John and I are repping some designs.
That's
from
right.
Nerdriot.shop.
This is why we did not dress up, is because we had to sell products.
Well, and we're lazy bums.
Well,
Makeup. You should have done a full face of makeup.
We've got.
I actually did.
This is
But it's all like
you don't want to see his unmakeup face. Frightening.
really awful.
We've got a new design. Actually, I think it's just live today or maybe recently with Red Guardian.
Oh, Red Guardian.
Inspired by Red Guardian. The shirt says "So full, so filled."
I love it.
From the trailer.
really
Great. Got a lot of other fun designs there. Check that out. Okay, let's move on to our next canonical Breakroom horror movie pick. This category, and again, we could be kind of fudgy with this category. Obscure / indie.
You should go first,
Yeah,
because
you
I think
should
you're the
go
most
first.
obscure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because
I-
we don't know anything about this movie.
Yes, I was trying to reach into like, what's a movie I really liked that maybe a lot of people have not seen. And the movie I thought of, and this is like, just some movies just stick with you. I see dozens of movies every year. Most of them I forget immediately, right? But then there's some that like, boy, I can recall the specific plot details, even though it's probably been almost 10 years since I saw this movie last. There's a great movie called Kill List. It's from the director Ben Wheatley, who did. He directed the Netflix Rebecca remake. He did. He's done a lot of like. He's an English
Free
director.
Fire, I think.
Free
He
Fire.
did. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow,
Field in England. He did a Tom Hiddleston movie called High Rise that I didn't like, but I loved this movie. It's the thing I love about this, and I won't spoil it because it actually there's an incredible twist at the end that you won't see coming. This movie, I'd say the first half of this movie does not feel like a horror movie. It's a movie that slowly works its way into a horror movie. And it just like very gradually, there's a lot of movies where like the opening shot, The Shining, right? That opening creepy shot of the car going through the mountain passes sets a tone that like, the vibes, the music. This movie, like, it so gradually works its way there. And the ending has stuck with me. Incredible twist. Creepy movie. Loved it.
I will admit, of everything on this list, not only have I not seen this one, I've never even heard of it. So that is obscure.
Similar.
Spidey Sensei has it on DVD.
Whoa! Nice work, Spidey
Sensei. Making t-shirts and watching horror movies.
Wild.
So I'll put that up there. John,
That's
you want to
great.
introduce yours?
I do. So then I think Gina, you went the obscure route. I think Gina and I went the indie route.
Yeah, which again, a lot of horror movies are indie movies. So
Tons.
don't come for us because if you Google these, they are indie movies.
Yeah, I have on my honorable mentions like Paranormal Activity and Cloverfield, right, and Saw. Those are all indie movies, but they're not exactly obscure.
Right.
But my pick for and my pick is not exactly obscure either. My pick for indie is The Witch. The David Eggers movie, The Witch. I just think that it is. Did I say David? I meant Robert. What's his name? I don't know. Sorry, Rob.
David Eggers wrote a staggering work of impossible genius.
There you go. So I got a different Eggers.
Yes.
Some sort of Eggers.
Here's the thing about this movie. I think that it is like perfectly executed. The storytelling is really good, but like. The direction is incredible. The acting is incredible. The whole cast is basically perfect, and there's only like 5 people in this movie. You've got Galactus, the great goat work.
Yeah, great
goat
work.
Incredible.
Black Phillip, are you kidding me? What a weird name for a horror movie villain. Just like pound for pound, a really good movie, and it's like just fills you with dread. Which is something that like some horror movies do, not a lot of them do, but you're just sitting there and you're like, I don't want to be here.
Well, also being so insanely researched and authentic to the era, right? Like sometimes you're watching a movie set in a different era, and then all of a sudden you see like an 80s haircut on somebody, and it like kind of takes you out for a moment. This movie, he spent years researching this period, and it's so like crazy accurate to that.
And if you haven't seen it, it's basically like Puritans on a house, and then there's a witch in the woods.
It's appropriate for the Marvel show we're watching right now.
That is true. That is true. And I admit I did spend like most of the movie being like, oh, what is like, because there's a lot of like accusations of witchcraft and you think it's going to go one way and it doesn't, but it is start to finish just a perfect movie. And also, we were talking about this earlier, if you put little kids in period accurate like Puritan clothes that are stiff and slightly too big for them, they look like little shrunken down humans, and it is immediately unsettling.
Yeah.
Without them doing anything other than putting kids in these weird, unsettling clothes.
And I believe this was like Anya Taylor-Joy's kind of breakout movie.
It was. I think it was her first role.
She's good in this movie. And it does this thing where it's like very slow and deliberate and slow pace, and like then it will cut and kind of straightforward, and then it'll cut to something like just truly disturbing.
Great ending.
Very good ending.
You get a couple butts in this movie.
There's a couple
nudity.
Bonus points for
there's
butts.
a scary butt and a nice butt. So you got a big
good
butt
array of butts.
Evan is covering.
One thing that I don't like. There's another piece of nudity that is truly disturbing that I won't spoil for this movie that I just despise. It's really good.
I'll also say this probably won't be the last time we mention an A24 horror movie, right? Like kind of been one of the defining trends of the last 10, 15 years in horror. This movie from Robert Eggers, Ari Aster kind of being the other twin flame of A24 horror, whose name might get said later. Gina, what's your pick?
Okay, so remember Indy, just like
Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
It's so low budge.
Low budge. It is a horror movie.
I like John went indie, not obscure. Sort of the original, well, not original, but it could have been obscure. Blair Witch Project.
So good.
I don't know if you were like alive and old enough to have been around when this was coming out, when sort of some people thought it was real because it was sort of the first like found footage that really took off. And there were, this was like before really like the internet or anything, but like people genuinely were like, and none of the actors were recognizable. They were all just randos. So some people did believe that it was real, but either way, it's just terrifying. And that ending is terrifying, and like
so
standing
good.
in the corner
Such a good
is
ending.
Terrifying. It's again so unsettling.
And this,
so unsettling.
This movie, I think, is one of those like Treasure Planet-esque movies where it's like, I know it's a book, but like.
Where is this going?
Yeah. If you watch it in 2024 for the first time, you'll be like, why is this movie filled with so many tropes? And it's like, oh, this is the movie that created a lot of those tropes.
Why are you referencing the animated Treasure Planet?
No, what is the book?
I was wondering the same thing.
Treasure Island?
Treasure Island.
Wow.
All right, okay.
Wow.
Damn, John.
All right. I got a movie that's based on a book, and the titles, they're so similar. I got them confused. Everything's fine.
John's family-friendly horror.
Well, the irony of the point you're trying to make is that when
Treasure Planet was a ripoff of Treasure Island.
When something comes out and like the tropes that it develops get reused so many times, it's hard to understand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you watch Citizen Kane, you're like, oh, it's a good movie, but like, why do people go so nuts for it? And it's like, no, it's the first time they did all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
That was this movie, and I will say, I saw this movie in the movie theater. That ending rocked me. I walked out like vibrating. I am an old. And it's hard. I mean, boy, the impact it's had on the last 25 years of horror movies.
From it. I would argue even The Witch borrows from it because that whole like, oh, there is a witch in the woods and you're sort of like you don't know where she's coming from, but there's no escape, because that like Blair Witch was so terrifying because they could not find their way out of the woods, and in The Witch they like have so many reasons why they can't go anywhere. There's literally like nowhere to go.
And often cited, though it was very successful and mainstream, but like cited as one of the most profitable indie movies of all time.
Yeah.
Right.
Made for pennies and then became a phenomenon. Yeah, Evan.
Also,
oops, sorry, John.
I was just going to say the production is equally terrifying. Anyway.
Yeah, true. Space Goff saying, first film as far as I know which had internet hype.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The story around the film was as interesting as the film and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. That's a strong pick. And I will say, again, not obscure, but that might be the best pick for indie.
Whoa.
Maybe.
You want to talk about some honorable mentions for this category?
Yeah.
Am I only bringing that up because I keep writing them down?
Please.
John's got a list of every
movies.
movie ever made on here.
Most of these are most
The
of these.
Godfather Part 1, The Godfather Part 2.
That was a Gorefest. Is that more of a Gorefest than The Shining? Maybe.
That's true. More body count.
So most of these are indies. I love The Strangers. I know that's a polarizing movie for some reason. I fucking love it. It's really fun, and those that like the line at the end of that movie, because you were home, is like it kind of shakes you. This is, I don't know if this is considered obscure. Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me is a sequel movie to the first 2 seasons of the show. And I think it's obscure just because I don't think a lot of people know that there was a movie that came after that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
This movie is better than any of the Twin Peaks stuff, period. It's better than the first season of the show. It's better than the 3rd season of the show, in my opinion.
Fun to have some David Lynch on this list.
Yeah.
To at least mention it. I was even thinking about Blue Velvet.
Sure.
Could have fallen into some of these categories, right? Inland Empire has some really creepy sequences.
Yeah, I thought about Eraserhead for a little while too, but I think that one's a little bit too challenging, even for me. Sometimes I'm just like, what am I watching? That movie's spectacular.
Power through these, man. You got too many.
One I threw out.
Fuck?
Okay. It's all right.
I'm looking at his list.
Session 9.
I already mentioned half of these. Saw, indie movie, maybe one of the best indie movies, indie horror movies ever. Cloverfield, obviously very inspired by the Blair Witch. The Invitation, I think, is an indie movie about a cult. Zach didn't like it.
I hate that movie.
And then Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, and I was gonna throw out.
How was that? Was that good enough?
That was good.
That was good. I was gonna throw out another obscure. Session 9 is a fun one.
I was seeing Session 9 in the chat earlier.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, kind of good
clearly not
Insane
that
Asylum like vibes to it. Yeah. Okay.
Some other chat recommendations that because I am not a big horror film person, but some of the genre things that I recognize here. Kobe-Wan Kenobi saying VHS, the VHS series.
Oh, love VHS.
Very good.
Another anthology.
Yes.
GSU Eagle saying the Babadook.
I almost put the Babadook.
Put a pin in that. That might be. Get it into another category.
It might come up later, but yes, I do the Babadook. Yes.
I'm keeping track of all the ones you guys are adding me. Don't worry. Keep sending some suggestions in.
Those are good ones.
Those are good. They're good. They're good.
I will say the chat. It was a pretty tight one this time around. With Blair Witch Project just coming out on top.
Yes.
I feel like that's
51.
Yes.
Okay.
If I don't get The Shining, I'm gonna fucking kill myself.
I feel bad for Zach because he.
You feel bad for Zach for making a bad pick?
No, he did the obscure. He got the assignment right on the obscure side, but I think no one had watched it.
That's right. Yeah. Which I'm that's fine.
And you know what? I'll say your description of the movie makes me want to go watch it.
Yeah, agreed.
Sounds pretty good.
I have my list, and I'm gonna go watch everything that I have not seen.
He's a polarizing director, but I think that's like one of my favorite movies of his.
Yeah.
And we could go. This could be the deepest category too.
That's true.
But
we've got 3 categories left, and we just keep it on time. That's all.
Let's blast through. Okay, I'll start with my foreign pick.
Yeah.
Train to Busan, a great South Korean movie from the last 10 years. I don't know how old. It's already had a sequel, Peninsula. It's a zombie movie. It takes place almost all on a train. Not a lot of actors I was familiar with, other than homeboy that played Gilgamesh in Eternals is like a great muscle man type of character in it. Might be bordering on action thriller, even though there are zombies, but great movie. Great, awesome effects, great pacing. Awesome movie. John.
Great. My foreign film pick is called Cure, which is a Japanese horror movie that is really awesome. It's like, if you love these like murder, mystery, crime type of films where it's like, oh, so there's some mystery happening and like, you know, someone's investigating, I guess that's self-explanatory. This is that, but it adds a kind of like supernatural element to it. And it is so good and so creepy and very no, it is not. It's more modern than that. A very atmospheric,
it was maybe early 2000s.
Just a great movie that I like don't want to talk about more because I don't want to spoil it. But it's hard to do these kinds of things.
It's a great
like
watch. I think would appeal to a lot of different kind of fans, even if you think this might not be. It's not like The Ring or some of the kind of classic J horror, K horror type of films. It has a different vibe than that, but it's very, very good.
Well, speaking of which, I did go classic. I went Ringu. Which the Ring was based on Ringu. I saw The Ring first, and it scared the crap out of me. Genuinely scary. I mean, like genuinely, you know, like the whole horror trope of like the hair in front of the face, girl like walking at you. God, like this scared the crap out of me.
And this was like peak J-horror too, right? It really had a moment in this kind of late 90s, early 2000s period. I mean, they're still putting out great stuff. But let's power through maybe while the chat votes here. Some of the honorable mentions, because again, this is a pretty deep category too.
My longest
I mean,
list
Let the Right One In.
Yes.
A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night
Very
was a Turkish vampire movie from the last couple of years. It's very good.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, What We Do in the Shadows is from New Zealand.
I almost picked What We Do in the Shadows.
There's a lot of great English horror. You could do stuff like Wicker Man and whatever. I mean, it doesn't feel as foreign as something that's in a foreign language.
Totally.
But,
yeah.
I have a crazy list here. Seconds, which is like about... Oh no, I may be getting that confused with The Exterminating Angel. Never mind. Fuck that movie. The Wailing, which is incredible. Funny Games, which is insane and was one of those movies that was like made in German and then the director remade it in English. Same
is that
director.
Haneke?
Yeah.
Who's a great creepy director.
Absolutely. Perfect Blue is an animated movie that is sort of inspired Black Swan, which is incredible. Let the Right One In, you already mentioned. The Devil's Backbone is a Guillermo del Toro, early Guillermo del Toro. I think it might be his best.
Oh,
I like it better than Pan's Labyrinth.
I mean,
I
like
love
it better
Pan's
than...
Labyrinth.
And then
Pan's
what's
Labyrinth
his?
could also be on
What was
here.
that first one he made about the old guy and the
Kronos.
Kronos is a fun one too.
Yeah, a lot of good Guillermo picks.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Great picks all around. Yeah, we leaned heavy Asia, but obviously a lot of parts of the world are making
good horror over there.
Great horror stuff. Yeah. What's the chat saying?
The chat is saying Train to Busan. I will say this maybe is a little bit of popularity, but recency. But it's good. It is good.
Yeah. I think The Cure is a little obscure. Probably not enough people have seen it, but go watch it.
Yeah,
it's so good.
I think watch all of these actually, because they're all solid.
It is hard
terrifying.
to one definitive movie. It's
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I think I know I say this about every category, but this next category might be my favorite.
This is gonna be a fun one. Camp.
Camp.
Define it how you will. We might have taken different approaches to defining it. Gina, what's your camp pick?
Okay, this was hard for me because again, I listen, when all in October, I just put horror movies on in the background while I'm doing anything. I barely watch them. I could have gone Killer Clowns from Outer Space on this. One of my favorites. I could have gone Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. I rewatch it every year. It's fantastic. But ultimately, I went with Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Insane.
The Dream Warriors.
I mean,
that one's getting circled. That one's getting circled, baby.
Original music video by 80s band Dokken in the end. Now, if you have not seen this, there are teens in an institution. Nobody believes them that someone is coming for them in their dreams. An original Nightmare on Elm Street woman, Nancy, comes back to try and help them. And she says to them, like, ooh, in your dreams you can be anything, so fight back against Freddy, which leads to some amazingly hilarious moments. Yeah. And if you've ever seen the X-Men movie, oh God, with the teenagers in
New Mutants?
New Mutants borrows heavily from this. Borrows heavily from
big question mark if they've seen New Mutants.
Yeah, Shri in the chat saying, does that classify as an obscure indie film?
But not a recommend.
Yeah.
But not a recommend.
I recommend New Mutants, but Nightmare on Elm Street 3, it actually did well.
Yeah.
And it's considered one of the favorites of the, and it's also got the great one when the teens all are fighting back, they all have like a line that they say, like, in my dreams, I'm a warrior. And it's like, whoa, they're all badass. And then Freddy comes in and destroys them all. Like, there's a girl that's like a punk with a mohawk, and she's like, in my dreams, I'm beautiful. And then she's like a former heroin addict, and Freddy makes all of her wounds open up, and then makes his fingers needles, and he stabs them into her, and he goes, what a rush. That is your pitch. That is your elevator pitch right there. Go watch it.
I do love the genre of, like, unkillable bad guy. This is a superhero that you're now facing. I don't remember what my pick was, so if we get that movie poster up, that would be awesome.
I do. There you go.
Oh, shit! What a great movie. This one is a foreign film as well, but it is a group of Japanese girls go to, like, their aunt's vacation house or something like that, and they're all named insane names based on, like, the trope that they are. So like, people get killed and there's ghosts and demons in this movie, but none of it's scary. It's all, like, insane. Very over the top. The cat, a cat is like one of the end villains.
Somebody gets eaten by a piano.
Yep,
like,
it's
wild.
Truly amazing.
It's wild.
It makes no sense all the time, which is so fun. Truly like the goofiest horror movie I've ever seen in my entire life. I love it to death.
Take a substance and put this movie.
Yeah,
you'll have a good time. You'll have a good time. I love House.
Take a substance and watch the substance.
Probably not going to win because it probably hasn't been seen by enough people. But go watch it. Go watch it. And then
one of Bill Hader's favorite movies.
Yes, my pick. I mean, I've seen this movie so many times. This is my dad's favorite movies. It played almost nonstop on TBS and TNT when they weren't playing Roadhouse or whatever other movie. Lost Boys, baby.
Yeah. Another one I rewatch constantly.
The one thing I could never stand about San Dimas is all these goddamn vampires.
This is a tight one.
I mean, it's peak 80s hair metal, both Coreys. Okay?
Both Coreys.
Yeah. Brothers.
An on fire Kiefer Sutherland.
I mean, look at him on the poster.
Dripping sex.
That's insane.
Also, if you can eat takeout rice without thinking you're eating maggots, Michael.
Yeah.
Then you are better than I am. You are better than I am.
And the great final battle sequence. I mean, again, might drift a little bit more into action than horror a lot of times, but God, this movie's great.
Yeah, it is really great. I'll give a special shout out. I was talking to Berg earlier. We share a love of the movie Chopping Mall. If you haven't seen it, it's free on Tubi. Go see Chopping Mall.
Okay, never heard of it.
Great one.
Tubi's got a lot of these.
Chopping Mall is literally a bunch of horny teens in a mall, and they've like created these robots to be security guards, but an electrical storm makes those robots evil.
Damn.
So it's really funny that you bring up this. When I was doing research for these lists, I went to my letterbox and I like sorted horror movies by like most popular, least popular, and I went all the way to the end. One movie at the very end was a similar movie to that premise that I worked on.
Oh my god!
Anyway, sorry.
Chopping Mall, great '80s movie though. I think '80s is best for camp.
The old's really representing in the chat today. Voting for Lost Boys.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, I can't tie that.
That's the most popular.
But go watch House.
Go watch Nightmare on Street.
I will say,
not House MD. House.
Here's the thing. We did not decide that chat was going to be the ones who picked the winner when we started this show. And I think Zach and I would probably pick House.
John, I think
I need a win. I need a win.
Don't second guess it, John. I think they're doing great.
Here's a movie that is maybe falls under camp, but I didn't pick it under camp because I thought Gina would yell at me too much, which is like Scream, which I guess is like a parody and maybe leans into camp at times, but I didn't feel comfortable putting it down as camp.
Now, see, I suggested a 7th category that was self-referential.
Yeah.
Because you've got a lot
Cabin
of
in
films.
the Woods.
Yeah, like you've got a lot of sort of more recent as in like the 90s and on, who once they had cracked the code of the horror movie tropes, they were like, yeah, now let's like turn those tropes on their head and make fun of it. And I think Scream would be perfect in that category.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also for the gays, Jennifer's Body is an incredible film that needs to be.
And I haven't seen Lisa Frankenstein. Would that fall?
Have you seen it either?
No, I don't know. Okay.
It does look kind of,
Mikayla's shaking her head no.
No, okay, it's not camp. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It's camp?
It's not scary.
Oh, it's not horror.
Camp,
Okay,
is it self-referential? Is it like a horror? Okay.
I would say like Freaky. The recent Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
That's
sure.
Also starring
a new movie, but that is still pretty campy.
Yeah.
That's a fun one. Yeah. Okay. Great. And then our final category.
Oof.
Modern.
Yeah.
The easiest to define.
Last 15, we said.
Last 15.
We've already got some modern picks up here, but we'll try to lean into that. What do you think best defines the modern era and horror?
We've got 3 very different picks here. 3 very different picks. I'll go first since it was just mentioned. I went with Cabin in the Woods. This is one that every time I rewatch it, I notice something new. Mm-hmm. Every creature that they have in that thing. I once went down like a list of every creature shown. The effects are great. The makeup is great. This is like clearly like people who like love horror, and this is so referential and so like, you know, the idea that like, oh, here's the dumb blonde, but she's dumb because she bought peroxide to put in her hair and they put a drug in it that lowered her IQ slightly. And the fact that everything has an explanation, like, and the one girl at the end being like, oh, I'm not a virgin. And they're like, Yeah, we can't find virgins anymore. It's fine. Also freaking, what's his name?
Hemsworth.
Hemsworth is great in it. Yeah, the cast is great. Bradley.
Is this
Bradley Whitford is great. The
Whitford.
dad from Step Brothers. I can't remember his name.
Joss
Whedon.
Whedon.
I was gonna say
what you know about Joss Whedon. That man can write.
Yeah. Also, one of the best deaths where there is a terrifying merman who kills someone and then blows the blood out his blowhole as he's
I haven't watched this movie.
And I will say, maybe nobody watching has not seen this movie. If you haven't seen this movie, go in cold.
It's good.
Sorry. I just
going very cold. No. You
I don't think you spoiled it
didn't
too much.
Unless you.
It's still vague enough.
Go in cold.
You can
go
say
in cold.
It's great.
Yeah.
Just watch it.
No, and it's truly kind of remarkable that we have not broken this movie down because it's rife with Easter eggs.
I was gonna say, I watched it probably 5 times, and every time I pause it on something, and I'm like, is that? Oh my God, it is.
Yeah,
it's one of those movies.
But it's also like Joss Whedon obviously worked on 2 Avengers movies.
Yeah.
Chris Hemsworth is one of the leads, and Drew Goddard did Netflix Daredevil. So it's like got all the kind of pieces that we talk about.
Yeah, we should pitch it. Let's pitch it as an Easter egg breakdown. It would take us 9 hours to break down all the Easter eggs in this movie.
Okay, my pick for the last 15 years is Midsommar. I'll say it that way. And here's why. There's almost no dark scenes in this movie. And I think to like do a horror movie that is as unsettling as this movie and shoot it all in like broad daylight is kind of incredible. I also just think that like Florence Pugh, this is one of her first roles, probably after Macbeth, or Lady Macbeth, she's so good in this movie. And I think it's kind of helped put her on the map a little bit. And Ari Aster is just like right up there with not even just horror directors, just directors making movies nowadays.
Is you're picking a lot of divisive movies. Like a lot of I feel like people either love this one or hated this one. I liked it. I like that all the crappy dudes get their comeuppance.
Absolutely.
I like when a crappy dude gets a comeuppance.
It's a daylight horror movie, as they say.
Another very unsettling one because like the first sort of just. I mean, it's disturbing, but the first like horror-y thing doesn't happen until like pretty well into it.
Well, apart from the opening, but you're totally right.
Right.
And again, going cold as with anything. If you haven't seen this movie, though, I loved this movie. And I'm an A24 kind of horror dude.
Yeah.
I might prefer that style, a little bit more dread, a little less gore, and machete kills type of a guy. So maybe I'm not like a true blue horror fan, but I love that kind of movie, and that leads into my pick. Hereditary, kind of another of these stalwart A24 horror movies in the last 10 years.
Sort of.
And it's a great. A lot of these movies, the theme is trauma is the real horror, right? Or like generational trauma, whatever. But this movie also has like, especially the last 20 minutes of this movie, can go toe to toe with any other. Yeah.
This movie definitely of Ari Aster's is like most in the box of horror.
I'm going to use some electioneering here. This is the last category. Whoa. John and Zach are clearly on the same page.
That's true.
I am the only woman who dressed up.
Oh, whoa! It's gonna become a gender debate.
Well, I gotta say, I
didn't realize that made a difference.
There's so many good movies we didn't name. We didn't get any Jordan Peele movies.
I was gonna say,
Gina had it on the list.
I have Get Out as my first honorable mention.
Barbarian. From just last 2 years, right? Like would have been a nice addition to this.
I had Pearl kind of.
Yes, all the Ty West, Mia Goth joints could
Zach
go on there.
gave honorable mention to Babadook. He did.
Babadook. I love that. Could have also been in foreign. That could have been right. Like it's an Australian
another allegory for something else. That's
There's some again maybe like genre stretching. Loved The Green Room. Maybe a little bit more thriller.
That's also a divisive
but like also some scary moments to it. That would have been a pick for me too.
Yeah.
While we wait for the chat to come in, just some extra shout outs for some of the early crew and other regular chatters. Kristen Unpronounceable saying Event Horizon. Savvy389
Hellraiser in here.
Savvy389 saying Young Frankenstein, but for Halloween vibes.
Yeah.
Shri recommending an Indian film named Roz, which is they describe as Indian and a HORNY ripoff of Clark Gregg's What Lies Beneath.
Wow.
And the first Indian movie that Paul McCartney ever saw. So fun fact.
Okay.
Tanae saying Late Night with the Devil, Petite Fort Fairy, and lots of other people saying Scream. Brian Painter, Jennifer's Body. Shout out John.
Yep.
Johnny Moves, The Exorcist, I Am Iron Man 10, Dream Warriors, Short Stackham saying Psycho, 4-5 Forever, Let the Right One In, Graveyard Pot Out at Night, Poltergeist, Jess McGregor, Human Centipede, B. Van McMahon saying Suspiria, Festive Wise saying Old Boy, the original. Lots of other recommendations.
Suspiria, the original too.
A lot of great stuff.
A lot of these movies get remade. I think they rarely get improved upon. Stick with the OGs. Yeah.
And the chat results are in. And Ryan Painter, thank you for contributing 7,100 channel points for Midsommar.
Let's go, Ryan.
Wow.
My God.
Wow.
That's a dark horse win there. I don't know that I would
Wow.
I needed it.
Have you seen Cabin in the Woods?
I mean, Gina, the electioneering really helped because Hereditary and Midsommar were duking it out for a second there.
And I got the pity votes.
Well, and I will say,
Cabin in the Woods is we all gushed over it.
Now the irony is, probably of those three, of Hereditary, Midsommar, and Witch, I'd probably pick Witch number one if it wasn't already getting
If it was an
used by John in another
A24 category.
Wow.
Maybe.
Okay.
But they're all great movies.
It looks like our winner is Zach.
Well, it's not about winners. It's just about who has the best taste.
Everything is about winning and losing.
Especially, and a little bit of inside baseball here. Zach got his picks in last, so he had fewer movies. Like Gina and I took movies that we thought were going to be better.
He said like you took a lot of them, so these are the also rans.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Crazy.
should we
Well, I mean,
recap our six
You know,
movies
and
that you gotta watch
let me
before
say
you
this:
die?
if I had known that chat was going to select the winners, I might have played this game a little bit differently. Okay, might have played this game a little bit differently. I would have pandered.
I would have.
Stick to your guns, sir.
Here's what we're gonna. This is gonna be my next week. Okay, I have to get made fun of at work because
terrible.
I watch half a movie every night.
Yes.
Evan
always.
and Dash will mock me because that's not how you should consume movies. You shouldn't watch them on TV.
He has a baby.
It's also hard to stay awake and it's hard to pay attention.
I've only got 45 minutes to consume media, so
the second half of movies are scarier.
That's right. But over the next 2 weeks, 45 minutes at a time, I'm gonna watch these movies. Okay. So for a family pick, Beetlejuice. I mean. Watch the OG right now, and then probably on VOD soon. Beetlejuice.
Also, Tubi's got all the animated series.
Now, I like this option too, depending on your taste.
Yeah.
No, I will kill you. The chat chose.
Do both.
Here we give them an option, right?
Yeah.
If you lean more modern, more like gore, more like kills and stabs, go Trick or Treat. If you're more arty, if you're maybe a little bit more squeamish or whatever, go Shining. Those are good options.
Yeah.
Obscure indie, Blair Witch. Nice time to revisit it. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
You know?
And the sequel.
Turn off all the lights.
Just kidding, the sequel's trash.
Okay. Foreign film, Train to Busan. If you haven't seen that, seek that out. But all three of those are great options. Camp, Lost Boys, baby. Ooh, the soundtrack. And then modern, Midsommar. Let's go. That's a nice lead in to Thunderbolts next year too. You know, get yourself a little.
Yeah.
Also, Will Poulter in that movie.
He's also in that. Adam Warlock.
Also,
William Jackson
Place.
Harper. William Jackson
Place?
Harper. Quaz from Quantumania.
Jackson Harper.
Famously.
I couldn't remember his name from
Steel Trap Baby.
Yes. Also,
He was
you
so
know
good in
what?
that movie.
I just forgot. Midsommar, one of the most shocking, surprising opening sequences.
It's
Yeah.
wild.
Oh my God, you
It's
don't see
wild.
that coming either.
Yeah.
Great first 10 minutes of that movie.
Yeah.
Think about it often, and it scares me every
Creepy
time.
as hell.
Wow.
So I'm sure wherever you stand on your horror movie preferences, some of this delighted you, some of it pissed you off. Wonderful. Let's keep the
Same.
conversation going in the chat. Tell me something based on my preferences that you think I would like. How about that?
yeah.
Suggest something for any of us.
Yeah.
Pick
Ooh, that's
which
smart.
one of us you think had the best slate, whether it got ultimately picked or not. And we'll share. We should maybe link tag a comment, pin a comment with all of our honorable mentions. As well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because there's
I
a
gotta
lot, you know?
I gotta say, I think like based on this, I think I'm sort of more mainstream.
Well, you're the biggest horror fan among us.
That's true.
Yes.
That is true. I think John is more sort of in the indie, and Zach is sort of older. I guess
past.
like
Elder
the
millennial, as
older
they say.
style,
Yeah.
older
Yeah.
style.
Some for the old, some for the young, some for everyone.
That's right. Thank you so much for watching here. Again, also, if you have a suggestion for what we call this format, right?
Yeah.
Throw that out in the chat. We're looking to maybe do more of these. Not necessarily about horror, but maybe about other topics.
I do like the 6 movies you need to watch before you die tonight. Like, if that's like the spin on like 6 movies you need to watch before
Santa
before
comes down
Santa,
your pipes.
Before Thunderbolts comes out. Before,
No, does he not come down pipes?
I like Breakroom.
He does chimneys?
I personally like Breakroom battles. Also, if you do end up watching these movies, give us a tweet or a comment or something and say, I watched this.
Yeah.
Gina was right.
Also, maybe we'll do this if we feel like doing it.
That's what we'll call it.
You know what? Tag any of these movies that are currently on a popular streaming service.
Also,
yeah.
Max, actually, we talked about Tubi earlier.
Yeah.
Ugh, Max. HBO has a lot of these too. That's where I found.
HBO does
that's where I found Trick or Treat.
House is on Max.
Yeah, Trick or Treat Midsommar is on HBO.
Hulu has a lot of the A24.
Yes, I think so. Or they have A24. Yeah.
They might have.
Neon goes to Netflix.
And past New Rockstars sponsor Shudder has a bunch of like more campy, obscure.
Yeah,
I know Girl Walks
movies.
Home Alone at Night. They have a lot of good foreign stuff on Shudder.
I think you could find all of these though on stream.
And if you ever want to watch people just putting on their own horror movies just on the internet, go to Amazon Prime Video because you can watch a lot of self-distributed horror movies there.
I thought you were gonna say watch the Breakroom at 3 p.m.
And watch the Breakroom for this
horror show.
Horror-tacular show.
Anytime anybody argues with me, it's a horror fest. They die. All right. Thank you so much. Hey, enjoy your Halloween time, everybody. Pop a candy corn in our honor, okay? And
catch you later.
Bye, guys.